Guys, I'm so excited to be with y'all here today, and I was given kind of a little bit of a gory job. So my job today as the pro-life OBGYN is to educate all of you on exactly how abortions are done. It's not a fun topic, but it is a very important topic, because I think this morning I was outside at 777 Apple Tree, which is an abortion center in downtown Philadelphia, where about 6,000 babies are killed every single year. There was a line of 30 plus women just streaming in. And as we were there, I was asking each of these women, do you know how this is done? Do you understand what they are going to do? Look up the videos on how an abortion is done. Because I honestly believe that if anybody watches those videos or listens to somebody speak about how these procedures are done, their heart would break. Abortion is the most barbaric thing that you could possibly imagine. We all know that this innocent, sweet life with a beating heart, little arms, little legs, floating around, fluttering from one side of the uterus to the other. We know that it's alive. We know that this is not a potential human being, that this is an individual human being created by God with a soul, with definite plans that God has for this individual. And yet to see these children slaughtered in this way and then discarded in the trash is just absolutely horrible. Your heart should break every time you think about it. It's the correct response to be in tears when you hear of it. So I'm really sorry if I evoke some really strong emotions as I'm talking about this. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but I think it is important. So abortion can begin from the moment a woman has discovered that she's pregnant. And in some places in the United States and around the world, abortion occurs all the way to the point of delivery. And in some places in the world, you would have infanticide, which occurs after the point of delivery as well. So in the earliest cases, women will use either the abortion pill or the suction abortion. So with the abortion pill, what happens is a woman comes in, or a woman discovers that she's pregnant. She's given two pills. The first pill is the RU486 pill. And the purpose of this pill is to cut off the progesterone to the baby. And the progesterone is a very necessary hormone. Oftentimes when we have women in the office who are having recurrent miscarriages, it may be because of a lack of progesterone. So we are very familiar with giving back progesterone to save lives in the office. So they give this RU486 pill to the woman. This cuts off the progesterone supply to the baby. It doesn't cause any sort of genetic abnormality, malformation, anything untoward to the baby. It just kills or doesn't kill, right? So then they give the misoprostol, which is the second set of pills that this woman will take. They usually tell her to take it about 24 hours later. And the job of that pill is to contract the uterus and to expel the baby and the contents of the uterus out. There are so many issues with this abortion pill abortion. First of all, nowadays, because you can get abortion pills pretty much anywhere, even in places where abortion is illegal, you can go onto websites and you can have abortion pills mailed to you in those states. So Trent Horn is correct that he lives in Texas. There's no abortion center for him to pray at, but the people in Texas and all of those other states where abortion is legal still need to be active and ready, because there are people in Texas who are taking the abortion pill. What we all need to know as pro-lifers is that abortion pill reversal is a real thing. This is a life-saving thing. So within 72 hours of taking the abortion pill, it is possible to reverse the abortion pill. Can I get a round of applause for that? Like, that's amazing. Praise God. There are hundreds and hundreds of babies who have been saved through abortion pill reversal. The older the baby it is, the easier it is to save the baby. The shorter amount of time since they've taken the abortion pill, the easier it is to save the baby. So when people show up to pray outside of the abortion centers and they have a sign that says abortionpillreversal.com, that is such a gift, because these women may not talk to you. These women may not take a flyer from you, but there's a really good chance that they are seeing your signs. There's a really good chance that if they see an abortion pill reversal sign, that they'll wonder what that is and Google it, right? Abortion pill reversal, I have used this so many times in my office, and it's a beautiful thing when I have a woman who calls me. I can talk to her straight away, and I can give her the advice of, you know, this is what we need to do. Let me call in the progesterone for you. Let me have you come into my office. Let me do an ultrasound for you. It's just amazing. Many of these women have guilt immediately after they take that initial abortion pill. Many of these women don't really want an abortion. They're taking an abortion just out of fear. And when they take that pill, they regret it. But if they don't know that abortion pill reversal exists, then they won't know what to do, right? So with abortion pill reversal, the beautiful thing is we are just giving progesterone, the same thing that I would give in my office to help a woman who has recurrent miscarriages. The same thing I would give in my office to a woman with severe PMS symptoms. The same thing I would give in my office for somebody who has shortened cycles. This progesterone can be compounded. It can be from the regular pharmacy. Like, there are so many ways to get it. So this is easily accessible if you have a doctor, and abortion pill reversal will connect them to the doctors who have signed up for this. So it's very, very easy. So if all of y'all will remember abortion pill reversal and then sign up, show up outside of the abortion centers and carry that sign, that would be fantastic. When these babies are born, as I said, it doesn't cause any genetic anomalies. It doesn't cause any malformations in the babies when they have that initial RU486 pill. That is always a question that I get from these moms. Now that I've taken this abortion pill, is it going to harm my baby? Are they going to be deformed? Are they going to have some illness? And I can honestly say no. If we get the progesterone to them on time, either it will save them or not. Sometimes it doesn't work if the baby is very, very, very young, or we get to them very late, but so often it does. And we have pictures of those babies, and it's absolutely wonderful. The second type of abortion is the suction abortion. And this can happen anytime from the onset of that pregnancy all the way up to about 12, 14 weeks. And this type of abortion, what they're doing is they are having an ultrasound initially, not because they want to allow the mom to see the baby, but simply because they want to measure the baby to find out how much they're going to charge. The bigger the baby, the more they get to charge. So they do this ultrasound, and then what they do is they sometimes give the mother anesthesia if she pays more, sometimes not. They put the mom up in stirrups. They start opening up her cervix. The cervix is the mouth of the uterus. And then they place in a cannula that is probably like the size of my thumb. And then they insert this cannula. Sometimes they use ultrasound, sometimes they do not. If any of you guys have seen the movie Unplanned, this was the kind of abortion that they had on there. They place the cannula inside, they turn on the suction machine. That suction is 30 times the strength of a normal vacuum. And as they suction this baby up, it's not like the baby will just, a pretty decent sized baby like the ones we have on the tables out there. It's not like that baby in its entirety will just go up into that thing. So the baby is shredded to bits. And then that gets suctioned into the machine. And then after that is completed, they take all of the baby's remains and they put it into a tray, and then they put it in water and they have to reassemble to see if they got 2 arms, 2 legs, head, thorax, so that they don't think they left anything behind, because if you leave something behind, there's a possibility that this woman could become septic. And I'm sure many of you have heard the recent commotion about a poor woman who took an abortion pill and later to find out she has twins, and then she became septic and she died. I'm sure you'll hear abortion people, Kamala Harris in particular, was saying that the reason she died was because of the pro-life laws, and the doctors were afraid to help her because she was getting septic, but that's all a complete fallacy. Even prior to all of these heartbeat laws, as I was in residency in a Catholic hospital when I was training and when I was working in a Catholic hospital where we didn't do abortions, if a woman came in and she was pregnant and she had a sign of infection, that was an indication to deliver. So any woman who comes in with chorioamnionitis, which is an infection of that inner lining of the uterus, that is an indication to deliver, regardless of any laws. So that woman did not die because of pro-life laws. That woman died because of medical malpractice and because of the abortion pill that she took. So then we have the abortion pill abortion, we have the early suction termination, which is also called like a suction D&E. Then we have the next type of D&E procedure, which is for babies that are in that 2nd trimester and up to about the 3rd trimester. So now those babies are too big to fit through that suction cannula that's about the size of my thumb. They need a larger instrument to be able to remove the body parts. So what they do in that instance is they dilate the cervix again. The baby is alive and moving around. And they use what's called a Sofer clamp. So a Sofer clamp is a clamp that has kind of a rounded edge, but it's serrated. So there's like a jaggedness on the inner side of both parts of the clamp. So here and here, it would be jagged. So when it comes together, it would grip something and it wouldn't let it go. So they reach in with this Sofer clamp and they grab whatever it is that they can grab. And they just yank it off. This baby is alive. This baby is moving. This baby feels this. And there are studies saying, maybe babies feel pain at 18 to 21 weeks. But I don't think that scientifically we truly understand exactly when that baby starts feeling things. In my mind, if the baby is moving away when you press on the belly and it's moving to the other side of the belly, and I used to see that in ultrasound all the time, even at 12 weeks. I press with the ultrasound over here and the baby runs over to the other side. I press with the ultrasound here and the baby runs over here. So that baby is trying to move away from stimulus. So I'm not convinced that that baby that is being aborted in the 2nd trimester does not feel discomfort. It's barbaric. So then they take that piece off, they put it on the tray, They reach in for the next arm, leg, whatever, grab that, pull it off, put it on the tray, reach in again, grab it, pull it off, put it on the tray. Once again, grab it, pull it off, put it on the tray. Then there's the head and the chest that's left. So they'll grab the chest and they'll break that off, put it on the tray. And what's left now is the head, and the way they know the head is like the size of a plum typically, and the way they know they've gotten the head is that they squeeze it and you can see the brains coming out. And so then they put that also on the tray. And following this, once again, they have to put all the parts together to make sure that they didn't leave anything behind. Because it's quite possible that if they leave something behind, that mother will become septic and could die. If that isn't brutal enough, then you have the third trimester abortions. In the third trimester, they take a needle and they inject digoxin into the baby's heart or into their skull. And this stops their heart. Basically gives the baby a heart attack. And then once this baby dies, they induce labor. So the mother still has to deliver a baby. It's just dead. In some places, they may be trying to do a surgical abortion for that baby as well, but the majority of times they just deliver a dead baby. These types of procedures are so barbaric. And women are choosing this out of fear. Women have the fear that they won't be able to sustain themselves. Women have the fear that they can't go to school, they can't accomplish their dreams, that they will be kicked out of their homes, that the person that they think they love will abandon them, that they're homeless, that whatever. Satan places all sorts of fears in their hearts. And it's our job as the pro-life community, it's our job as Christians to show up. Because Satan also places fear in our hearts. People hear about Mark Houck and how he ended up in the pickle that he ended up in. And that will be enough of a reason for Catholics all over the world to say, oh, I'm never going to 12th and Locust because I don't want to end up in the same sort of pickle. People will say, oh, I'm going to go to Westchester because it's calm there, but I'm not coming to downtown Philadelphia because the people down there will say things to me. And it's safer for me here. Man up, people. God is going to look at every single one of us when we die. And he is going to ask us, what did you do? Why didn't you go? I'm not saying don't go down to Westchester Planned Parenthood. Every single one of you should go to Westchester once a week, 100%. But every single one of you should also come downtown Philadelphia, where 10,000 babies are killed every single year. 10,000 lives, 10,000 bodies in the trash, 10,000 beating hearts ended. 10,000 babies slaughtered. Every single one of us. I don't like going to the abortion center. I hate going to the abortion center. If you like going to the abortion center, something's wrong with you. Nobody wants to go to the abortion center. We would all be happy if abortion ended and we never had to go to the abortion center. We would be happy if we lived in Texas and the abortion center shut down and then we just have to go to adoration more. That would be great. But we're not living in Texas, we're living in Pennsylvania. God has us here for a reason. If you need a chair, we have chairs. If you need a bathroom, we can figure out where to get you one. But their 40 Days for Life worldwide is starting on Wednesday. That means that for every hour of every single day, from Wednesday for the next 40 days, there will be people praying all over the world at every single hour of every day, because there are people in Australia, there are people in Korea, there are people in Mexico, there are people in South America, there are people in Canada. In Canada, you can't even stand outside of an abortion center. You get arrested. We are so blessed to live where we are. We are so blessed to have the opportunity to go out to these places and minister to these people. If you stand outside of an abortion center in Canada, even if you're walking back and forth, even if you're not saying a thing to anybody, you will get arrested. We are so blessed. And God knows that we have these opportunities. So when we allow Satan to place fear into our hearts and we don't show up, why are we letting him win? We can't let him win. We know who wins in the end. We know that God wins everything. We know that God has the ability to raise people from the dead. We know that God has the ability to send legions of guardian angels to surround us and protect us. When I go to those places and pray, it's crazy because while I'm praying there, I have access to such peace. It doesn't make sense, but when you are participating in the spiritual warfare and you are praying outside of those abortion centers, God gives graces. He gives you the ability to remain calm, to pray, to minister, to participate in that spiritual battle. Not everybody does it though, but everybody should. Everybody really should. And there are people in this room, I'm sure, that did it for years and years and years, and you guys deserve a break now. You guys went to jail for this. You guys sat in front of the entrances. You guys were carried off in the paddy wagon, and it's our turn. It's our turn. There's no reason not to stand up and be completely vocal about our beliefs. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We are speaking of the winning side. We are speaking the truth. We should never be ashamed to stand up for life at any moment, no matter who's in the room. But we should always speak it with love, because our God is love. And if you speak with love, then it allows you to hear the hurt in that other person, and you can apologize for anything they may have walked through, and you can let them know that they are loved, and no matter what they chose in the past, no matter what they did, it doesn't matter, they are still loved. But you still have the ability to stand up for your beliefs and stand up for the truth. And there's people we're talking about. I did this I got to be on this Ellen Fisher debate with this beautiful pro-choice midwife. And prior to that debate, I spent about an hour loving on that woman and her daughter, because I wanted her to know that she was loved before we got onto that set. And if for those of you who saw it, everybody commented on how she was so willing to have that conversation. It wasn't a fight between both of us. We were both expressing our opinions and our views, but there was no cattiness, there was no anger. And I think those conversations are so important, and those are conversations that we can have with anyone. When people come at us with anger, we don't have to respond with anger. We can still respond with love. Even if they're yelling at us, even if they're saying unkind things to us, even if they're swearing at us, our response does not have to be the same, because we are speaking the truth. So, anyway, those are the different types of abortions. Does anybody have any questions? Yep.
Since they can get the abortion pill, can they also get reversal online?
There is a website for abortion pill reversal, and anybody can go to it and they can click on it. And I don't know if there's like an online chat with the nurses, but there's a phone number there, there's an email there. Yeah. Yep. Sure. Yep. So the first question is, where can we find statistics about healthy babies born after abortion pill reversal? If you go to the abortion pill reversal website, they may have some information, but if not, I would just call that number. And whatever, they're the ones that are doing the majority of the studies, because every person that goes through abortion pill reversal, the nurse triages them first and collects all of that information. And so then following that, they would go to the crisis pregnancy centers and receive care and whatnot. But they have the numbers on that for sure. What is the 3-second message to a woman walking into a Planned Parenthood facility for an abortion? If you figure that out, you tell me. I have tried so many things, and it all depends on the individual. Honestly, I feel like the best thing is, as you get there, just say, Lord Jesus, number one, Lord Jesus, may the light in me see, the light that you have placed in me, see the light that you have placed in them, so that you can identify Jesus within each and every one of those people. Number two, come Holy Spirit. Because nothing that I say that is ever worthwhile or good is something that comes from me. It's all from him. All the bad stuff I do, that's all me. But the good stuff is all inspired by God. It's things that I've heard along the way. It's things that have moved me, but it's all from him. It's he inspired someone else to say it. He inspired. So ask the Holy Spirit for the inspiration of what may move that particular person so that you can know what to say. There isn't, unfortunately, a 3-second line that you can tell someone. I mean, I tend to always say, sweetheart, we're here to help you. Is there anything we can do to help you? Your baby's heart is already beating. You're already parents. Is there anything we can do to help you? But it's a very difficult situation, you know? I'll tell people that I'm a pro-life OBGYN, and I've seen women who have been hurt by this procedure. By the time those women come to that place, more often than not, they have such tunnel vision. They're just trying to get into that door. They have been warned ahead of time that there are protesters outside and they should ignore us and they should stay away from us. Whatever you do, don't yell at them, don't be angry, don't shout at them, don't call them names. Just show up with love. We're here praying for you. You can do better than this. We have hope, we have love, we have life. We want to offer you whatever it is that you need to change your mind. You're gonna be up there for a long time to think about this before you go back. But even when you're sitting on that table, it's not too late to turn around. And if you take the abortion pill, it can be reversed. Abortionpillreversal.com. Every woman going in there that's working at that place, abortionworker.com. We can help you find another job. We can help you have support. You don't need to work in this place. You can leave this place. Yep.
I know we're using the cards, but I just want to ask you, like Monique, you've had some turnarounds.
We always have turnarounds.
Can you maybe recall one anecdotal moment of like how that worked?
Can you repeat that question so that it...
So she was saying that we have had turnarounds. So what did you do in that instant of the turnaround? I don't think there's a formula for the turn. Like, do you? Like, you're out there all the time. Do you have a formula? No, right?
It is basically like a safety net, and sometimes they are looking for a sign, and you're that sign.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
but if you're not there, they might just have an abortion because nobody.
Because nobody was there. There are so many women that I
It's gotta
encounter.
be like a line you might remember one time. No problem is so great that the child must die. That's my line for 35 years.
That's a good one. Say it again.
No problem is so great that a child must die.
Yeah,
The other thing
that's a
is,
really good one.
women regret their abortions almost immediately. Please let us help.
Yep.
Can you repeat that line so it gets...
Yeah, okay, sorry. So the two lines were, no problem is so great that a child must die, and women regret their abortions immediately after they choose this or after it's performed. Please let us help you. Yep.
We had a baby saved. My line was, this brochure may change your life.
What was it? This brochure may change.
This brochure could change your life.
That's a good one too. So if you're handing them something, this brochure may change your life. Now that's if you can get it into their hands, which is great if you can. Those brochures absolutely can change lives, definitely. If you can get it into their friends' hands, if you can get it into anybody's hands, it's amazing. Okay. Given that the millions of children are being killed by in vitro fertilization centers, do you think that it would be a good idea to set up an information table for NAPRO technology outside of these centers? That would be awesome, but yeah, finding the people, like I can't find people to go and pray outside of an abortion center, let alone trying to get people to go and stand in front of an IVF center. I think it would be fantastic. I'm always on the internet trying to inform people about NAPRO technology and why IVF is wrong and bad. Do you guys all know why IVF is bad? Raise your hand if you know why IVF is bad. Okay, so there are several hands that didn't come up, so I'm just going to run through that real quick because it is another form of abortion in a sense. So with IVF, what they do is, number one, they give the mother medications to hyperstimulate her ovaries and get her to produce a whole bunch of eggs. Then they go in and they take those eggs out surgically, just through an in-office procedure. And then they have the father, the future father hopefully, to come into the office. They give him a stack of pornography. They ask him to go and masturbate in a room with this pornography, and then they get a sperm sample from him. They clean that sperm sample and they put these two together and they create embryos. When those embryos form, the next thing they do is they grade them. And so say the woman has 8 embryos. They'll say, this is of this grade, this is of this grade, this is better than that one. We should discard these because they're not of good enough grade. So already out of those 8, there may be some babies that are already being thrown in the trash, right? Then, so say she has 6 left over, right? Of those 6, they can only place 2 into her at one time. So that is what's considered the fresh cycle. So the other 4 need to be frozen for later. So then the parents are responsible for paying for the freezing of those babies, and the 2 that are fresh, they will put inside the mom. So when those babies are put inside, when those embryos are put inside the mom, then they could take off like gangbusters, and both of them could split into twins, and then you've got 4 babies there. Or one of them could pass and the other one could turn into twins or triplets. A number of things could happen, but if you have more than 2 babies present, then the doctors get concerned that this would be a very high-risk pregnancy and that she should go ahead and reduce in order to get down to the correct number, the safe number. So now you're taking babies that have a heartbeat, early pregnancies, and they're injecting them with that same solution that they injected in the 3rd trimester abortions in order to end the lives of those babies, and then they dissolve. So this mom and dad who were desperately trying to achieve one healthy pregnancy are now being forced into abortion in order to prevent medical problems for their other babies. And yes, if you have a quad pregnancy, is it harder? May they be premature? Could they possibly have some sort of learning deficits or other problems? Yeah, it's a possibility. But those are all your children. How are you choosing to abort 2 of them and leave 2 behind? And then, because they have 4 more embryos in the freezer, they're kind of locked in that either they have to go through this process over and over, or they have to say, okay, thaw them out and throw them away, or they have to say, you can give them up to adoption for someone else.
Or sell them for experiments.
Or you can sell them for experiments. So that's why, on top of that, there's the cost of IVF. For every cycle of IVF, it's around $9,000 plus medications. So you have people who are destitute, mortgaging their homes, taking out loans in order to cover this. On the contrary, there is neighbor technology. And what we would do is have a woman come into the office, we'd get a full history of her and her husband, we would have her chart her cycles to try and figure out what the root cause is of their medical issue that's preventing them from conceiving pregnancies, do a full workup and see if there's a structural problem, a hormonal problem, you know, is the problem with the husband and not with the wife because he's 50% of the fertility. Most IVF centers will do a semen analysis for the husband, and when they are analyzing the semen analysis, they analyze it in terms of IVF. So the numbers that they're looking for are very low in order to call it normal. So you could not conceive a normal pregnancy outside of IVF with those kind of numbers because they're hand-picking 1 or 2 sperm out of this lot to put with the eggs, right? So they need much lower numbers than we would need for natural fertility. So looking at the husband, we could look at what does your thyroid look like? What does your adrenals look like? What is your vitamin D? What other medical problems do you have? And try and boost his fertility to make up. And that entire cost every month, I don't know, maybe a few $100s versus $9,000. So it's a huge difference. But yes, the more people that know about how bad IVF is and how many babies are lost through IVF, the better, for sure. Abortion pill reversal. There is a campaign that says it doesn't work and is dangerous. Good information that RU486 doesn't hurt the baby, so we can defend reversal. There are, if you go online and search, there are people who are talking about this. I talk about it. Through the abortion pill reversal website, there may be some things that you could also get. I don't have, I think 40 Days for Life actually has made a pamphlet about abortion pill reversal. And that may be at the 40 Days website. I may have some at my table as well. In-suction abortion, harm to the uterus. Yes, there are oftentimes problems that happen when you're performing those surgical procedures. So you can have the suction catheter actually perforate through the uterus. You can have damage to the cervix. You can have damage to the uterine vessels, and you can have significant amount of bleeding. And oftentimes these abortion centers are not set up in order to care for the women in those emergency situations. They don't have a blood bank on hand in an abortion center. So they have to call 911 and get an ambulance to come and take this woman and leave. So there are definitely complications that occur during surgical abortions. Do medical schools require students to learn how to do abortions? It depends on the medical school. It depends on the residency program. When I was going through residency, I was at Drexel, and I was blessed to have a medical director who, he himself was a gay man, but he had adopted 2 children. And because he had adopted 2 children, he realized that those children were not aborted. And because they were not aborted, he had children to adopt. And so for that reason, he decided that any resident who comes through his program does not have to be forced to do a rotation to actually participate in or do abortions. Everybody had to do training to, like, D&Es for miscarriages and stuff like that. But I never had to do an abortion for training. Can NAPRO help a woman with debilitating endometriosis? Absolutely. It's what I do every day in my office.
Monique,
Yes.
a quick question.
Yes.
We have on Tuesday, Westchester, it's surgical abortion day.
Mhm.
And it goes, and it's packed, and it rotates a couple of times over. Joe Levin, the abortionist, comes in, he's out of there at 4 o'clock, but all of the waste, if you will, the baby parts and all of that, how is that being processed today into the commercial world for drug needs and so on?
That's, yeah, I don't, I mean, I know that most abortion centers, I don't know which ones exactly, but there are abortion centers that participate in providing different parts for scientific research and stuff like that. So they would take those parts and put them aside for those people to come and get, and then
Do we have to freeze them or?
I don't know if it has, yeah, I don't know if it has to be, yeah, it would, I'm sure it would have to be either refrigerated or they show up on that day itself and get it fresh, I don't know. But the rest, everything else that they have no use for, just goes into basically the trash and it's incinerated. Yeah. How much time, hours, classes about medical ethics did you take or is required in medical school? Medical ethics was always something that it was a class that we had to attend. There were hours that we had to do on medical ethics, but the medical ethics that they're talking about is not pro-life medical ethics or Catholic medical ethics. It's more like end-of-life situations and DNR documents and HIPAA violations, not sharing information of the patients with other people, things of that nature. Not, is abortion an ethical and moral thing that you should stand for? That's never what they're teaching. Unless you're at, probably, there's a new medical, pro-life medical school that's going to be available in the future, so unless you're there. Are there cases where mothers take the abortion pill when they think they are pregnant but are not pregnant? Yes, definitely, because number one, there can be false pregnancy tests. So this is a major issue with the abortion pill, right? So it used to be in the past that in order to get the abortion pill, you had to show up at an abortion center. You had to have a meeting with some sort of medical provider. You had to have an ultrasound and a positive pregnancy test there to prove that you were pregnant before getting this abortion pill. Now, none of that is necessary. Anybody, a human trafficker could go online and get an abundance of abortion pills and could force women to take abortion pills every single month. A 13-year-old girl who thinks she's pregnant could go online and get abortion pills and take it at home, not knowing whether or not she's pregnant. And the more concerning thing is a woman who has a baby that is much farther along, that an abortion pill may try to end the pregnancy but actually won't, and she may just end up with some uterine cramping and some bleeding, but not end up ending the life of the baby, and that baby's life would go on, and then she would be farther along, and she wouldn't know that she's pregnant, she wouldn't get any care, and then I don't know what would happen to her. The most concerning issue is when somebody has an ectopic pregnancy. They have a pregnancy that's positive on their pregnancy test, they have a pregnancy in their tubes, and then they take this abortion pill and they have some bleeding and they think everything's done, but this ectopic pregnancy is growing and growing, and then they end up bleeding out because of a ruptured tube, and they're expecting to have some pain, some bleeding, so they don't go to the doctor, and then they die. So all of these rules that have been struck down about the abortion pills, the ability to get it so easily without any oversight, is really hurting so many people. If a woman takes an abortion pill when not pregnant, what effects would that have on her body? The RU486 would cut down her progesterone production, so it would interfere with her hormones and probably leave her feeling very badly. And then the misoprostol would cause her uterus to contract and cause her to have pain. What effect would taking the abortion pills have on a woman if she wasn't actually, okay, that's the same question. During a surgical abortion procedure, is the mother conscious and aware of the procedure? It depends if they're paying for sedation or not. Typically, they're not completely knocked out with general anesthesia. It's just like an IV sedation, which puts you into you're awake, but you're out of it, and you might not remember it sort of situation. Any advice for bringing children to pray at an abortion center? So I think bringing children to pray at an abortion center is a great idea. I would always choose to bring them to a day where you know it's a little bit more quiet. Like in downtown Philadelphia, during the week, Monday through Thursday at 777 Apple Tree, it's usually just the women going in and out. There aren't usually many escorts even. The crazy people that show up on Saturdays to dance in the streets and carry signs and all, they don't show up midweek. Elise and my boys, I used to take them down. I think Elise started going to the abortion centers when she was about 1.5, when I had my reversion. And she would sit in the stroller at first and just watch cartoons. And as she got bigger, we would take sidewalk chalk and she would draw pictures on the sidewalk. And then as she got bigger, she would sit there and she'd read, or she'd hold signs, or she'd pray the rosary with us. But now Elise is leading a pro-life club at her school. So and on Monday, Elise has spearheaded to get kids from her school for the first time to show up at the Pennsylvania March for Life. So these are realities of our time, and I think that it's really important to share them with our children. The way that you share them with your children and how graphic you get with your children, you're the only one who knows your children. You know what they can handle, you know what they can't handle. But it's very easy if you ask a child, is it okay to stop a baby from living? every single one of them, whether their parent is pro-choice or pro-life, will say no. Children are innocent, children are sweet, children are loving, and it's only when people harm them in some way or indoctrinate them in some way that they start having these beliefs that it's okay to terminate a life. Those aren't natural thoughts of children. So if you share with your children that there are a lot of women who are very scared because they don't have enough, or they don't think they have enough, or they're afraid that something is going to happen to them, or that somebody is going to hurt them, and so they're making a really difficult decision, and they're choosing to show up at this place and pay somebody to stop their baby from living. What do you think about that? And I bet you the majority of those kids would be like, that's horrible. What can we do to stop that? Like, well, we can show up and we can pray outside of that place, and we can ask God to move their hearts and change their minds. And sometimes the people who show up to those places are very scared, but they're also very angry, and they may say some mean things to us. They may call us names. They may shout at us, but I want you to know that you will be right by my side, and I will always protect you, and you will always be fine. You will be safe. But I think acting like it doesn't exist is not an option. I think that we have to educate them, and we have to give them the tools so that they can stand up and speak up, because people are going to start talking to them about this when they're away from us. People are going to say things on the TV, on the radio, on the internet, and I would much rather them hear the truth from you than be educated from those people. So I would always try and educate the kids. Oh, sure. So they said, could you mention the help available for post-abortive women suffering? So every day in my office, when I talk to patients, I'll go through their full history, and one of the parts of the history is the OB history. So I always start that off by saying, how many times have you been pregnant? And then they'll say whatever the number is, and I'll say, how many living children do you have now? So say they said 5 pregnancies and I have 3 living children. I said, okay, what happened with those other 2 pregnancies? Did you miscarry? Did you have an abortion? And so then they'll share that information with me. And the minute that they say they had an abortion, I'll say, I'm so sorry for your loss, for both, obviously, miscarriage and abortion. So sorry for your losses. Did anybody ever offer you abortion recovery services? And most of those women look at me with like a blank stare. They've never heard of that in their life. And I'll tell them, no matter what it was that pushed you to make that decision at that point, whether it was out of fear, whether it was somebody forcing you to do it, whether it was, whatever the situation, I believe that you deserve to know that your child is in heaven, your child doesn't hate you, your child is praying for you and loves you and wants you to be healed. And there is a program that can help guide you down that path to healing, and where you can think about that situation, you can, speak to somebody, speak to a priest and have forgiveness for that situation, and that you can come to peace, you can name your child, all of those things. And I talk about Rachel's Vineyard. There are several other programs. Silent No More has a program. There's a whole bunch of them, thanks be to God. And they're beautiful programs where these women are loved on. And I always tell them, every woman that I have sent to these retreats has always said, number 1, I never knew how much I needed that. And number 2, I've never felt more loved in my life. So definitely always recommend those. How are prenatal fetal anomalies diagnosed, and how can you treat women with a fatal abnormality? So prenatal fetal abnormalities are found in a couple of different ways. The first probably is around 12 to 16 weeks, they have chromosomal testing that can be done. And this chromosomal testing is not always 100% accurate. So you'll have women based on their age, based on their history and stuff. Sometimes it will trigger like a positive Down syndrome screening. And then depending on the physician who is giving this person the result, the physician may say, oh, your test is positive for Down syndrome. And at that point itself, prior to doing anything else, that physician may say, you can always consider abortion. Or that physician should do what they should do and say, you know, we're going to continue with more ultrasounds and everything else so that you can see if there's any signs or symptoms of Down syndrome. Or you could also do what I would do, or what I used to do when I was seeing women for prenatal care, and I'd say, there isn't a single person on this planet that doesn't have something different in us. Every single one of us has some sort of abnormality. Maybe that your ears are funny, it may be that you have diabetes, it may be that you have a higher incidence of cholesterol, it may be that you can't process wheat, it may be that you have anxiety or depression or autism. The children that have issues like Down syndrome are actually the biggest gift to our planet. These are the people that when you walk into a room and everybody in there is angry and upset, they're the ones that will walk up to all the angry and upset people and give them a hug. They are the gift that God has given us, and we have unfortunately terminated 90% of them. In some countries, 100% of them. So you are actually more blessed than other people if indeed you do have a Down syndrome child. So let's celebrate this. Not saying that this is what people would naturally choose because everybody wants their child to be the healthiest. You don't want them to have, you know, challenges in life. But this is not any reason to terminate a child. This is a reason to now learn as much as you can about all the support systems that are available and all the people that have children that may be affected by this, and see how joyful they are and see how that person is like the center of their entire family. So it all kind of depends on who is counseling them at that time. But the next step from there typically is they would be offered amniocentesis or a CVS procedure where they take a little bit of the tissue. The majority of my patients would never opt for that because those come with increased risks of miscarriage. And then from there, they would, you know, depending on who they're talking to, again, they may recommend abortion or not. I, of course, would never do that. When there is a woman that has a fatal abnormality where that baby is not going to survive, the perfect example of this is I met the mother of Shane, the baby from Pennsylvania, where the baby had anencephaly. The mother was only 21 years old at the time. She was in her senior year, her last semester, heading into her exam week. And she went to this doctor's appointment 12 weeks, and she was anticipating just, you know, maybe hearing the baby's heartbeat. Husband wasn't even with her. She went with her mom. And they showed up for this appointment, and the doctor simply wrote anencephaly on a piece of paper and said, don't Google it. This is what's wrong with your son. And normally people choose abortion for this. And the mother said, no, she's very pro-life. She's not going to choose abortion. And so then they said, well, I guess then we'll just monitor the pregnancy. And what this girl decided to do, she and her beautiful husband created a bucket list of all the things that they had done when they were kids, all the places that they had gone, apple picking, down to the shore, different places. People from all over in the community offered them like trips to Disney and all sorts of stuff, but they even refused that. They were like, no, we want to do things that we had done that when we have more children down the road, we can do with them as well. And we don't know that we would be able to afford to go to Disney with other kids. So we're not going to accept that. So they went and they checked off every single one of these bucket list items. That baby miraculously lived until 9 months. And she delivered that baby in the hospital, in Riddle Hospital, a tiny community hospital, with the most amazing physicians, the most amazing nurses who loved on her at every moment. And then the baby lived for 2 hours, and she held the baby for 36 hours. And then she handed the baby over to the funeral director. That is how you treat a woman who has a fatal anomaly. You honor that child for every moment that it's alive. You allow that mom to deliver that baby and then mourn that child and bury that child so that they know that they have never done anything at any moment to harm that child, and that all that child knew from the moment of its conception until it became a saint in heaven was love. All right, I think that's the end of the questions. Thank you guys so much.